Parents of Reddit, what are some of your kids' secrets they think they are hiding well from you? Story 1. My son thinks that just because he is wearing headphones, I can't hear him watching adult videos. Story 2. Before I turned 18, my strict Asian parents threatened that I couldn't have any guy friends until I got to college. My mom admitted to me recently that she's always thought I was not into guys because I only hung out with girls. Yeah, mom, because I was being a good daughter and followed your silly rules. Story 3. I'm not a parent, but my mom has discussed what she knows about my brother with me. As of late, my older brother started seeing his ex-girlfriend. He sneaks her into my mom's house. Mother lives alone. They do their thing, and she leaves the next morning. My mom actually says to me, "Her car is right outside. How come they think I do not know?" We just laugh, because he is so convinced he's being successfully sneaky. What's funny too is that my mom wants to keep it this way because she doesn't want to deal with their drama. Story 4. When I was a teenager, my parents found my stash of adult mags, solved the crossword puzzles, and left them where they found them. Story 5. Another obvious one. Any kid who thinks their parents don't know they have been drinking is either kidding themselves or needs better parents. Story 6. This is my secret. When I was 15, I fell for a guy 5 years my senior. I told my mom that he was 16 and didn't like girls, so that he and I could hang out together without supervision. Of course, we slept together a bit over a year later, and when I turned 18, he proposed to me, and I finally told my parents. My mom knew all along. My dad was completely baffled, but my mom knew. She didn't know he and I had been sleeping together, which she still doesn't know, but she knew that he and I had been together. Story 7. My daughter is 3, but she still wears pull-ups to bed to prevent any nightly accidents. I heard her rustling in the pantry last week and asked her what she was doing. She, of course, said, "Nothing, Daddy." We start walking down the hall to her bedroom, and I hear a bag hit the ground. Turn around, and it is a fruit snack package. I knew her game was up at that point, and I asked her where that came from, and she said, "I don't know, Daddy." I smiled and helped her to bed. Hearing more crackling, I asked her if she had any more fruit snacks, and she looked at me and thought about fibbing again, but said, "Yes, Daddy," and pulled 3 more fruit snack packages from her diaper. I stopped myself from cracking up and confiscated the contraband and kissed her goodnight. Story 8. Our son likes for us to think he is not interested in or dating this girl that he video chats with every night and gets all giggly. Story 9. My 5-year-old daughter thought she could get away with some shenanigans today. She's in her room making some crafts because mom just brought her colored paper and a pack of crayons. I'm in my room on the computer with my back facing the bedroom door. She walks in and says, "Hi, Daddy." I keep staring at the computer screen and reply, "Hey, honey." At this point, she pats my head several times and says, "Nice, Daddy," almost referring to me as a dog, like when kids pet a puppy and say, "Nice puppy." Then she turns and leaves. After a few seconds, I realized what she had done and reached up to feel the hair on my head. Glue everywhere. Story 10. When I was in primary school, I used to always forget to get my parents to sign the permission slip for when we went on excursions. On the morning of each excursion, when the teacher would ask for the slips back, I would quickly take out a pen and forge my mom's signature. I had practiced a lot, and it always worked. When I graduated from university, and we were just chatting, I brought it up, and she told me that the school would frequently call her and ask if the signature was legit. She always said yes. My mom is awesome. Story 11. My 5-year-old doesn't realize that I can see her from the rear view mirror when she gets mad at me and makes faces or sticks her tongue out at me in the car. Story 12. My 3-year-old thought I didn't notice that there were 2 cookies missing, when I very clearly told her she could only have one. Thinks she's so clever. Story 13. My son is preschool age. He sneaks frozen peas and corn from the freezer. I know this because he leaves a giant mess every time, but he's stealing vegetables. Who would say anything about that? Story 14. My daughter thought I didn't know that she got into my birthday cake. The evidence was all over her face. She is 4. Story 15. Not a parent, but my brother asked for some tech support for his computer. The first thing I noticed is his lack of an ad blocker. Then I checked his history, told him he shouldn't be going to specific sites, when there are plenty of places that reposts things in a clean environment, and installing an ad blocker. I then told him about the incognito mode in browsers. I also essentially told him that if he doesn't do those things, I am not troubleshooting his computer, because I just have to do it again later. I think it worked. Story 16. Oddly enough, I just informed my parents of this instance the other day. I was pretty proud of my cunning and stealth at the time, and thought for sure everything had been executed flawlessly, despite the reckless nature with which it began. But it turns out my parents had always suspected me of an instance of youthful debauchery that I hope you'll find to be worth reading. I used to live on a remarkably busy street in a suburban area of a large city. Our house was behind a big brick wall that ran along this street and stopped at the edge of our property, where it adjoined a grassy berm that also ran along the street. I was heavily into paintball at the time, and one night a buddy and I grabbed our paintball and a good stock of paint and posted up behind the berm. Traffic was good and consistent, and pretty soon we were laying it on thick to passing cars, trucks, buses, etc. That is, between fits of absolutely debilitating laughter. Naturally, this could only go on for so long, and pretty soon we see a car coming down the way with a spotlight near the window scanning the berm. Joy turned to dread as we realized it was the police, and so we snatched up all our stuff and booked it back over the fence to my house. Except there was one problem. There was snow on the ground, and it looked really obvious where the perps had come and gone from. Making it back into my house, my friend and I go into panic mode and rack our brains trying to figure out what to do. I learned that he wasn't much good under pressure right then, because he just clammed up and couldn't come up with anything. Desperation spawned a couple of ideas in me, however, and I convinced him to go along with them. The first thing I did was get us another pair of shoes each and head back out there wearing them, and from there took sidewalks back to my house, so no more footprints. This of course was an attempt to make it look like we weren't the perps. Upon getting back to my house, I hid the original shoes and all the paintball gear in our crawl space. Then I called the police. I told them that we had heard what sounded like near our property, and upon going out and looking to see what was happening, we had seen 2 kids shooting paintball guns into the street, and that my friend and me when we came up to the fence. They replied that they had indeed received many calls about this, and that there were officers in the area that would be coming by and wanted to ask me some questions. Pretty soon they called back and said there were cops at our fence ready to talk. I summoned all the lying ability I had and went out there nervous as ever. I remember the conversation actually being fairly smooth for how unnerved I felt, with 3 or 4 cops staring at me with flashlights on a cold dark night. Basically, I told them the same thing I had told the operator, except I said that after the shooters had seen us and fired upon us a couple of times, they booked it through the trees, where you can see the footprints, or something to that effect. They asked for a description, and I said something about short and Asian looking. Apparently they bought it, and they set off along the exit path we'd made. That was the last I heard from the cops. A bunch of my neighbors, of course, found out about all this, and within a couple of hours, my parents, who'd been gone through all of this, found out from the neighbors and quickly returned home. I gave them the same story and didn't detect any suspicion, although the paintball link was pretty obvious in hindsight. Maybe they just figured things were better off not being confronted at that point. TLDR, paintballed a bunch of traffic with a friend. Cops descend on us. We wig out, and I hatch a plan to literally cover our tracks, and then call the cops saying that we were witness to the paintballing and fire upon ourselves. Cops buy it. Parents seemed to buy it, thought no one was the wiser, but parents suspected it all along. I just found out 12 years later. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell button to receive notifications to my latest videos.